If you've been watching my recent content, you know I've been covering a game called Eternal Tombs. Last week, I had the opportunity to early preview test it. Today, it goes into open testing for everyone. The long story short is Eternal Tombs is an action combat sandbox MMO with never going to have mandatory PvP. PvP will always be optional. If you want to know more about the game, there's a video in the upper right-hand corner which will let you know more of the details about the game. Today is really your turn to get into open testing. You will need to go to the website and create your account. You'll need to go to Steam to get the client there. I will put these links in the description below. Keep in mind, this is going to be the testing environment, which I went through last week on my Twitch streams. I will say it is a very fun and engaging, immersive game, but it's really a testing environment. So keep in mind, this is still a lot of very rough cuts, first passes. Make sure to be giving them good feedback. Keep in mind that this is an MMO in development. It is an MMO in testing. They're trying to do a lot of stressing. They're going to spin up as many servers as they can. They want to get as many people in today as they can. But if you don't get in, they are going to be doing testing quite frequently. Now, some of the things they need your feedback on is combat. And this is where, as testers, you need to make sure you give feedback if you like something, and make sure you give feedback if you don't like it, and give constructive feedback and let them know what don't you like. Saying, I don't like this really doesn't help the developer. Saying, I don't like it because it's laggy, it's non-responsive, it's not smooth, that's better because then the developer knows what you want them to change. Now, I will say I am not an action combat fan, but this is a good starting foundation. It felt like the combat was in a good place to start. It was just going to need some iterative passes. One thing you will notice is you will be using both left mouse button and right mouse button, and I'm accustomed to using right mouse button for, say, shield block or some stance to move into some stance or some other things, but right mouse button is going to be your trigger for everything on your hotbar. So left mouse button is going to be your primary attack. Right mouse button will be your secondary attack. And then whatever button on the hotbar you press for an ability, you activate that with right mouse button as well. Now, right mouse button has been iterated on just last week. If you don't have an ability selected, or the ability you have selected is on cooldown, right mouse button will automatically use your secondary attack. One thing about the combat, and I want to give the developer credit, they were very responsive in the testing last week. The leash range is very long. You are going to get overwhelmed. You're going to, due to the linking, and your mobs are going to link on you, you are going to get overwhelmed. You're going to be running for a zone line. That little arch there is the doorway into the castle. It will save you, but the mobs are going to link. And the leash range has been shortened, but I think it still might be a little too long. Make sure you leave feedback if you do get overwhelmed and you try to retreat and you get you never can leash the mobs. Leave feedback on the leash range. Also realize if you are trying to run for the zone line, mobs will stun you if they're chasing you. I personally do not like this feature. I like when a stun makes sense. If it's a rogue mob and it is going to have a sort of stun, if it's a mage, it has a stun. If it's a fighter and it has some sort of shield slam or shield bash, or even if it's an animal like a boar and it runs through you as part of its kit and it stuns you, I think that's okay. I think being stunned arbitrarily because you've run away from the mob and it hasn't hit you in X amount of time, I just felt that this mob stun is a bad mechanic. So if you encounter that during the testing, leave feedback for the developer on that one as well. One suggestion I have, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, I think a dot on the screen would be very helpful. I know action combat players, you may not need it because you're so accustomed to action. Players like me are not. Just having a little dot as a help along so I know where to aim my camera, I think that might be a little helpful. The starting area, I do want to give this developer, Triune Studios, and a mass kudos. They are very responsive. Just last week, I was giving feedback. One of the pieces of feedback I gave is that it was very difficult to finish your starter quests. There wasn't enough mob density. There wasn't enough drop rate. The developer did tweak that. It's your job today, if you're open testing, to let the developer know if you feel, if you experience that the drop is good, if the starter quest is good, if you're getting an attachment to your character, let them know that. What I will say is they did add more mobs. They did change the quests, so it's a little bit more intuitive. If you think that the quests don't need to have the requirements in the bottom of the box, let the developer know that they've maybe dumbed it down a little too much. Drop rates have been tweaked. If you do get to a point where you're trying to farm Goblin Eyes and the Goblin Eye drop rate isn't good, make sure to leave that info for the developer, both on the Discord or on their Steam page. Discord's probably best. That's why joining the Discord's important. But they did fix the drop rates for a lot of things. More mobs need to be fixed, as again, the Goblin Eyes. This is the big one. If you run into a problem getting your unknown number of Goblin Eyes, I won't ruin it for you. Make sure to leave that for the developer. Quest givers, again, props to the developer for taking feedback and maybe changing the quest givers around a little bit so you kind of knew more. What are you asking me for? I understand people want that old school feel, and I will say there was one part of the old school feel. Maybe the Goblin Eye one doesn't need to have the go collect this many, because I ended up figuring it out the old school way. You had me go collect 5 meat and then go learn how to make a kebab. Then you want me to get you eyes for a goblin pie. How many do I need? Let me go see what the eye pie recipe says. So that was kind of fun. That was a throwback to old school. Looting, when you loot, it's going to be F, and then you're going to have to manually click on the stuff. I really wish that it would be F to loot, and then either F to loot again, or some loot all button. I hate when looting becomes a mini game in and of itself. I hate that. I hate having to click on loot. Just put the loot in my bag. Character identity, who am I and how did I get here? This is a big one for me. If I don't feel immersed with my character, if I don't feel a personal connection to my character, it's very difficult for me to stay in a game. And on a game on Steam, where you really have that 2-hour window to make sure the person sticks with you, just a little backstory of who am I, how did I get here, would kind of help flush out the world. Now, maybe this is coming, maybe it's not. But if it's not, I definitely think we need just a little bit more to give us the hook on the hook, line, and sinker. Class identity, I don't really connect with most of my tunes. I did not connect with my Bone Stitcher. The Ranger was very difficult to connect with. Ranger is a bow user that starts without a bow. And the bow is kind of broken right now, so on the combat passes, but it's really, really weird to be a Ranger and the class description be bow user and then not get a bow. Bone Stitcher didn't have a necromancy, bone stitchy like first level ability, and Chloromancer did. So when I played my Chloromancer, I felt a connection to my Chloromancer. I was like, okay, this is my identity. I think Bone Stitcher probably needs a little something as its level 1 starter ability to give me an identity. Now, in truth, they did give you your heal, but you would have no way to know that your heal was supposed to be your thing. You just thought that it was everybody gets a heal. Quest givers, one thing I did not like is the audio keeps going when you walk away. This was really weird to me. Some people have said they really liked the audio continuing as they walked away from the quest giver. Other people agreed with me that when you get out of a certain range, the audio should fade to 0. And if you walked back in, if you weren't done listening, the audio should keep playing, just distance from the guy, the audio should drop. If you get in there in your testing and you find the quest giver yammicking on and it's a disruption, make sure to leave feedback on that. It is the old school feel. I talked about this, the go kill rats and get 5 meat, and then go get the recipe for the kebab, and then go fetch eyes for an eye pie, make 5, but then the quest has you get 10. It was really kind of jarring. Maybe a little refinement there, but when you get to that point, you tell me how that piece feels. Does it feel old school? And with that, I will make sure to put all of these links in the description below so that you can get into testing. Like I said, testing is today, April 2nd, 2024, from about noon till midnight Pacific time. And if you aren't able to get in today, follow those links, register, do all those things, and then I will try to be a little bit more proactive about announcing when the testing times are. You guys take care, and I'll see you in Eternal Tombs.